Hey everybody, this is Dr. Osborne, founder of Gluten Free Society. Going to talk today about brain inflammation of the brain, and how you can actually stop it. Now, in the last episode, we talked a little bit about some of the triggers of leaky brain, including gluten. So, if you're trying to follow a gluten free diet, understand that it's very, very imperative if you're gluten sensitive to avoid it at all costs because it absolutely can damage the brain. Go back and watch that video. But in this episode, I really want to focus on what you can do to stop brain inflammation, or brain inflammation. So, number one, eat fat. We've been through this where many people have been told, fat's bad for you. Avoid fat, especially saturated fat, um, and then eat a low fat diet because that's how you lose weight and that's how you get healthy. But the reality is this: that especially in industrialized nations where carbohydrate toxicity is a very real problem, so many people are eating highly processed, heavy carbohydrate based foods, and they're not getting the fat that their brain needs to function. So it's not about eating whatever kind of fat you want. It's about eating the right kind of fat. And where many people are lacking are the omega-3 fatty acids. They get plenty of omega-6 from all the grains and from a lot of the other processed foods that they're eating and the processed oils. But omega-3 is where it's at in terms of brain fat. Because why? One of the types of omega-3 fats, DHA, is very, very critical for brain synapses, very, very critical for monitoring and modulating the inflammation that can occur in the brain. So, getting your adequate quantity of omega 3 fats on a daily basis, very, very critical. But also remember, it's not just omega 3, it's other fats as well. Vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K are all fats. They're fat soluble vitamins, they're found in foods that contain fat. So, you want to make sure that you're getting adequate quantities of these vitamins as well. So, very important for brain health. Number two, let's talk about minimizing excessive carbohydrates. The average American diet, 60% plus carbs. Look, my advice to you: aim for 30 to 40% carbohydrate in your diet, unless you're following something like a restricted ketogenic diet for cancer or for epilepsy or some other type of medical condition that you are being monitored with a doctor by. But carbohydrates, that sugar, right, that excessive sugar can coat your hormones and your proteins. It's actually a blood test doctors order to measure the coating of a protein. It's called a hemoglobin A1C test, oftentimes referred to as an A1C test. And if you have elevation in your A1C, it's because there's sugar coating your hemoglobin protein. And that's, again, a marker for diabetes, high blood sugar. But remember, high sugar in the brain has been linked to another type of protein formation that is linked to dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So, very important that you're not over consuming carbohydrates as a staple in your diet. Remember, too, that excessive carbohydrates can contribute to yeast overgrowth, and yeast in your intestines, for example. One of the things that can happen is a syndrome called autobrewery syndrome. Yeast can ferment your carbohydrates and convert them into acetaldehyde and alcohol, and those can be damaging to the liver, but also to the brain. And then, of course, it elevates blood sugar. Excessive carbohydrates elevates blood sugar. So, look at your carbohydrate intake. Use one of these tools to measure your daily carbs, fats, proteins, and look for a balance in the ratio between these macronutrients. Number three, maintain healthy blood sugar levels. Now, that's different than minimizing excessive carbohydrates because there are other things we can do to maintain blood sugar levels. Remember that type 3 diabetes is also known as Alzheimer's disease. So this is one of the reasons why we're trying to minimize the blood sugar level over time, because it's that stickiness and the viscosity in the blood and that sugar that coats your proteins that can form plaquing in the brain that shuts down your nerves' ability to communicate with each other, hence dementia. But some things that you can do to maintain healthy blood sugar levels, aside from minimizing your excessive carbohydrate, is ensure that number four is happening, which is your exercise. But before I get into number four, let's talk about the micronutrients that regulate your blood sugar levels. If you're not getting adequate magnesium and zinc and chromium and vitamin D and B vitamins, then understand that on a molecular level, on a microscopic level, your body needs these small nutrients, these vitamins, these minerals, to regulate how sugar can be taken from your bloodstream into your cell and converted into energy. So if you're low in these micronutrients, you can end up in trouble regulating your blood sugar. So ask your doctor to measure these things so that if you're low in them, you can choose foods higher in them and that you can also supplement if necessary. Number 4, exercise. Another way to maintain healthy blood sugar levels. More muscle mass equals less disease. That's one thing that all of science can really agree on, is that people with higher muscle mass, and I'm not talking about beef, huge bodybuilders. You don't have to convert your body into a massive muscle in that regard, but I'm talking about lean muscle mass to fat ratio. It gives you a better capacity to live longer. It gives your immune system a reserve tank, but more importantly, as it relates to blood sugar, it helps your body control blood sugar. Muscle mass improves your sensitivity to insulin and thereby helps you burn sugar easier. It also helps promote the circulation of CSF. That stands for cerebrospinal fluid. This is the fluid that wraps around your brain. It's part of the lymphatic system, and it helps your brain take out the trash. It helps your brain get rid of garbage. So very important. And understand that movement and exercise are what allow that CSF to circulate properly. So movement also equals better lymphatic drainage, better blood flow, better oxygenation to your tissues, including your brain. Number 5, be aware of medications that destroy brain health. There's a lot of them. Statins have been linked to dementia because they block CoQ10, which is a very critical nutrient for brain health. They also block vitamin D, also important for brain health. We talked about it in number 1, eat fat. Metformin, which is a drug that's highly promoted to maintain healthy blood sugar levels. A lot of diabetics are on drugs like metformin. But I want you to understand, if you're taking one of those, that medication, that class of medication, causes vitamin B12 and folate deficiency. Here's the sad part in that. B12 deficiency leads to a choline problem. Now, you need choline to stabilize the cells in your brain. So a lot of people that are on metformin long term that are creating these B vitamin deficiencies actually end up damaging their brain. Remember, too, that these B vitamins are necessary to modulate a chemical that we all make. It's called homocysteine, and your doctor can measure it. But these B vitamins are necessary to keep that chemical under check, because if it's not, it can actually cause neurological damage to your brain. Metformin also causes CoQ10 deficiency. Blood pressure medications. Look, many of them cause zinc and magnesium and CoQ10 deficiency and calcium deficiency. So again, this is where if you're on these medications, go have a conversation with your doctor. Why am I taking these medicines? Why can't I do diet and lifestyle change and see if my blood pressure regulates, see if my blood sugar regulates? Then we don't need the chemicals to control or to manipulate those things, and we don't have to deal with the side effects. So important that you take an active role in making good decisions. Number 4 here is antacids. Antacids block calcium and magnesium and zinc absorption. They also block vitamin B12 absorption. Again, these nutrients are necessary for your brain, for the synapses in your brain to communicate with electricity. Remember, your brain cells are electrical machines. Basically, they use electricity to talk to each other, and calcium, magnesium are electrolytes. And so if you don't have adequate quantities of these nutrients, it can slow down brain synapse communication. And then number 6, stop eating grain. The grain causes brain inflammation. I just talked at a major conference about this in New York City. And what I want you to understand is there are a number of factors in grain, especially modern grains, the processed grains, where we have heavy mold, heavy pesticide, where we have nutrient fortification of grain with synthetic vitamins that aren't healthy. Grains are loaded in mold and mycotoxins. The pesticides in the grain can alter your microbiome and change the physiology of the gut bugs and how they talk to your brain. But grains are also super high in omega-6 fats. So again, we go back to what we talked about in number 1, which is, yes, eat fat, but don't eat so much omega-6 and not enough omega-3 that you create an imbalance that leads to brain inflammation. So these are the 6 ways you can stop brain inflammation and implement them. They're easy. You can do them on your own, and you don't need to spend any money to exercise. You don't need to spend any money just to change the way you eat in your diet. Again, this is Dr. Osborne with Gluten Free Society. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Leave your comments as well. I want to know what you think. Let us know what you did to stop brain inflammation as well. Maybe you've got another tip. Leave that in the comments below. and we'll see you in the next video.